Hey, what's up investors? Juan Pablo here, the People's Mentor, and today I'm going to share with you some key information that you need to perfect as a real estate investor. What's that? Well, before I get into it, it's pretty much a phrase, right? You have to inspect what you expect. So if you're expecting cash flow, you better inspect that property thoroughly. So what am I getting at? Due diligence. So I'm here to share with you some details about due diligence when you run a property. Now, due diligence, that involves several things, right? But let's name a few. It involves pretty much you taking caution, right? You inspecting everything from the crawl space to the roof. Also reviewing documents. It can also include procuring insurance, walking the property, doing, or I should say, inspecting everything that relates to that property, but keyword, before you actually close on that property. So it's kind of like this. You know, as a real estate investor, you're looking for deals, you're looking for the money, you're analyzing the deal and so forth, which is all important. But you switch from being an REI to a REI. What does that mean? You switch from being a real estate investor, REI, to a different kind of REI, a real estate investigator. You have to put your investigation hat on, Inspector Gadget, and inspect every single thing from the financial to the physical, which in my opinion is most important. But there's other forms of due diligence that you must do on a rental property. There's front-end due diligence. That's the part of due diligence in which you do like a drive-by inspection, you do some information or get some information about the crime rate, the property, the neighborhood, and so forth, just to make sure it looks like a sound investment, right? The asset. You also do the financial and the physical, which we'll get into in a few moments. So I'll save that for a little while. And then the last part is just pretty much a back-end due diligence. You just do a walkthrough just to make sure everything is A-okay before you close. So without further ado, let's get into the financial and physical part of the due diligence process. So before we get into the financial and physical, let me share with you the purpose of performing due diligence. It's so that you can inspect everything to either A, move forward with the deal with confidence, B, negotiate credits, because you see things that are not in order, such as the leases aren't accurate or what have you, there's repairs needed on a property, you can get cash back at closing. Credits. And third, be able to walk away for the property. No harm, no foul. That's the purpose of due diligence. Now let's get into the financial. The financial part is important, right? That's verify everything from the leases, the revenue. The other income can be application fees, coin laundry, many other things. Anything that relates to you receiving income, you have to verify. Verifying, I mean, you're comparing what the lease says against the listing that the seller or agent provided against third-party information, let's say Section 8. So for example, if I see a listing and the listing says that the rent is $700 a month, I'm going to check that against the documents the seller provided, which more than likely is the lease and the rent roll. And also I check Section 8 just to verify if it's true, if it's in a C area or not. So you have to do all that with the income. Then you want to verify the expenses, the operating expenses, such as the taxes, the property taxes. And many people don't know, depending upon the location of the property, you might have multiple different tax authorities. Most people just think it's just one sort of tax because you might have bought a house before, a single family house, and you send your tax money in escrow to the bank and they pay all your taxes for you. But sometimes with multi-units, like I'm a multi-family investor, you have to pay your own separate taxes. And so you want to make sure that you dig deep and figure out, well, what taxes do I owe? Typically, there's the municipality tax, which is like a local government tax. There's a county tax as well as a school tax. Now, depending on the location, you might even have more. You might have a library tax. There's many different small taxes, but each borough, each county, each municipality, each local government all have different tax structures. So you have to verify the amounts. So again, you have to verify the amount for the property taxes on the listing against tax documents, tax bills that the seller provided, as well as calling the tax authorities just to verify, right? Now it's just taxes. So you can see already, it's meticulous, it's tedious, it is time consuming, but you gotta make sure you do it correctly. So outside of taxes, you have property insurance. You have to verify that. You may have utilities that you pay, because you might be thinking, well, Juan, I thought that the tenant is responsible for all utilities. Well, it depends, right? When you're buying a multifamily property, sometimes the utilities are separated and the tenant pays for it. So good for you. That means you don't have to pay it. That's one less bill you have to pay. or bills you have to pay: water, electric, and gas, so bills. Or I bought some properties in which I'm responsible for the water and sewer, so I need to verify the amount. And it's important that you verify, so let me share with you a story on that. One time I was buying a property and the sewer bill was outrageous, right? The listing said it was about $2,000 per year, the sewer bill, but when I did my due diligence, it was actually about $3,000. So it was significantly higher. So when I called the agent to have the seller provide a letter of explanation as to why this bill is so high, why did he underestimate this expense, and the seller ended up reaching out to me and said, hey, well, I provide you copies of utility bills for the water company, right, for the sewer, excuse me. He's like, now if you look at the bills, in July and August, you will see a high increase in the water bills. Is that correct? I looked at it and I said, yeah, it is. It is higher. He said, now look at the months prior to July and August and after July and August. Don't they seem to normalize? Yeah, they do. Well, the reason being is because they had a sewer line break in this property during those 2 months. So being that the sewer line broke, the sewer bills were through the roof. But I did get it fixed. Here's a copy of a receipt from a plumber verifying that it was fixed, and you got the utility bills verifying that the water bill ended up going down after August. That is a legitimate explanation, right? So it's important that you verify all these particulars. Now, not just utilities. You might have other expenses. Some properties might have to pay for trash, some you don't. Some properties you might have property management in place. You might choose to self-manage it yourself. Other properties may have other miscellaneous expenses such as caretaker fees or keeping the grounds, whether it's snow removal depending on where your property is located, or it could be cutting the grass, many different expenses. Also maintenance, right? Occasionally you might have to repair the property. So there's a lot of things you have to verify. You have to dot every I and cross every T in regard just to the expenses. That's the financial due diligence, right? So you have to be meticulous. But the other part of due diligence, which I mentioned a few moments ago that was extremely important, is the physical due diligence, meaning the property itself. Everything from the roof to the crawl space to the basement gets inspected. And you want to be able to get a property inspection report in which you're viewing that report and you're seeing everything that can be wrong with that property. And you use that as a negotiating tactic, right? As a bargaining chip. And that's one of the things that we do here at 1% Finance when we perform due diligence for a client. We'll look at the property inspection report and let the negotiations begin. We try to negotiate as much as we can, but more importantly, we negotiate things that are major issues as well as safety related or environmental issues, which is extremely, again, I know I said this a lot repetitively, but it's extremely important. You cannot miss out on that, because that happened to me. Like most of the stuff you'll learn today, right, on this video is through me by experience, learning the hard way, right? I bought a property, it was a 4-unit, and I scrimped up every penny I had to bring to the closing table to buy this property. It was a 4-unit and it was super cheap, $66,000 in the market I invested in. So it was less than $20,000 per unit, right, if you do the math. About $16,000, $17,000 per door. And when I acquired the property, I got a letter from my insurance company that we're canceling your insurance. And I was baffled by that. Why are you canceling my insurance? They said, well, this 4-unit has 4 chimneys and the chimneys are crumbling. They need to be pointed. You need to get a masonry up there to fix these chimneys. I didn't even know. Why did not know? Because I never ordered a property inspection report. I just figured, oh, this property looks like it's in decent shape. Yeah, I guess I'll buy it as it is. I'm not a certified property inspector. I didn't go to school for this, right? So you want to make sure you rely on the experts. If you're not certified in real estate investing or you haven't taken any courses, you definitely want to do so yourself, or you might want to hire someone who has. So I actually did that, right? I did that, meaning I did that mistake. That was my fault. I couldn't blame no one else, not the seller, but myself. Not the agent, but myself. But after I realized that repair was needed, I had to like run around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to find the money so I can repair these roofs to reinstate my insurance. So it wasn't fun, but all that stress, all that pain could have been avoided if I first and foremost performed proper physical due diligence. That's simple. So as I mentioned, due diligence, and we just talked about the financial and the physical, right? Again, it's the front end and it's also the back end due diligence, 4 different kinds. But we just talked about that just to state that it's vital that you perform it correctly, Because when you're buying that property, that's it. You can't blame it, no one else for any issues but yourself, right? Because you're the person who has to inspect what you expect. Now, if you do expect cash flow, you gotta make sure you dot every I and cross every T and perform that due diligence correctly. All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. In regard to the due diligence, you can negotiate credits up front, you know exactly what's going on with the property, or you can back out if need be. But it's important that you perform this thing correctly. I know I sound repetitive, but I mean it truly. Learn from experience. Hey, but if you're interested in learning from our experience so that you can get started on real estate investing, hey, we're here to help you at 100percentfinance.com. All you gotta do is just check the links below to learn more, all right? And as always, guys, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively and live passionately. Peace.